What's up everyone, hope you had a great day. Lethal Concept here with my part 5, the final part in this ultimate beginner's guide, focusing on gameplay, game sense and advice. So this section is more or less gameplay advice and tips on how to best play the game, along with some elements of the HUD inside the game. While this is actually slightly difficult to put into words and is easier to actually show you, what I'll do is I'll have gameplay in the background and I'll do some commentary there. I'll also play 3 different types of games, bronze, silver and gold, with post commentary of what were my thoughts and why I do what I do. Alright, so what I have in the background is just a gold game of me leveling my Sentinel, and I'll just do a brief outline of what your HUD displays. At the top of the screen is a compass, and the compass has a couple of unique uses which I'll go into a bit later on. So on the left we have a notification area which tells you once an enemy dies, ally downs, or when an ally gets executed, and combo effects. So this is useful in knowing when an ally is down and if it's from a simple enemy or an elite that you might be careful when going in for a res. On the bottom left you have your consumables. Now I went into this a bit more in my previous video. Cobra missiles deal large amounts of damage in an area, revive pack allows you to rejoin the fight when you are downed, ammo resupply allows you to refill ammo and current clip instantly, and health pack restores all your health and shields. In the middle of your screen you'll see your current weapon, and the little numbers show your current clip ammo above your total ammo reserves. Now directly in the middle are your shields / barriers and your health underneath. Shields and barriers are technically the same thing, just different names given because biotic classes have barriers instead of shields and having different upgrades for them. They both serve the same function as an extra layer of health. Underneath that there displays the current wave and a shield icon if you are in cover and the current duration of the mission. Next to that on the farther right side are your 3 main powers. They become blue grayed out if they are on cooldown. On the upper right, this will display any current objectives on an objective wave and how far you have progressed. In the middle, once you have used one of your 3 main powers, you can see the cooldown in the form of 3 smaller circular lines. Leftmost will be your leftmost power, middle for the middle, and right for the right. This is handy for not requiring you to glance at the bottom portion of the screen to know cooldown timers. Your reticle and aiming are obviously also straight bang in the center of the middle of the screen. This can change depending on the weapon and the scope of the weapon and any scope mods you have equipped. Now as for the actual advice, there are some things that aren't generally talked about in guides and tutorials that I really think should warrant some attention. And the first is the compass at the top, which gives you a load of information. So what the compass is that instead of seeing a bird's eye view of the map like what you normally see in some FPS games, you actually just see if an enemy is in your frontal area regardless of distance. Now while this seems counterintuitive, it still displays a lot of key information. It displays enemies as red dots and objectives as an orange shield icon. So enemies will appear as red dots on the compass with nothing to differentiate any distances between you and the enemy. However, it does display which direction the enemy are from you and will most likely tell you what route they will take towards you if you know the map well enough. For example, in the clip you see in the background, you can see that I notice a group of enemies on the side of the map. I also know that there are rooms that you can jump across, and since enemies are most likely to take the most direct route towards you, this allows me to set up my barricade, which is upgraded to stun enemies that get in close for easy set of kills. Using the compass also tells you the enemy's elevation. How this is done is that enemies above you will have an arrow pointing up and enemies below you will have arrows pointing down. You can determine if an area is safe to jump to or land in if you have no vision, purely by checking the dot mass and dot elevations. In the background example, while escaping, I notice an enemy above me when grabbing ammo because of the elevation indicator. This allows me to take cover and reduce the damage taken and take the enemy out. One last important information that the dots can tell you are enemy types. Now this requires a bit more of an in-depth game knowledge. For this example, I can see that there is an enemy red dot rapidly approaching from the flank. From my knowledge of outlaws, I can deduce 2 possibilities. There are two enemies that can charge that fast, Adars and Berserkers. Now Berserkers only charge when they are on low health, or that they are far away that they cannot shoot but have an enemy in sight. Adars however charge frequently, so it was most likely an Adar. This allows me to use my cryo beam and have it ready to use instead of using overload, as overload can stun Berserkers but cryo beam only slows them, which wouldn't have mattered that much when they are that close. Now movement in this game is fairly simple, but it actually has some depth to it. Now as with all games, you have you move forward, backward, left and right. You have shift for sprinting and a button which you can customize for dashing, and also a jetpack you can use for vertical movements. The complexity comes when you combine all of these together. This allows you to perform maneuvers or feats that sometimes you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. Now first off, I will tell you, when you are heading from point A to point B, which doesn't require much turning, it is 100% better to dash than run. The reason being is that dashing actually dodges some bullets while running doesn't. Also, some classes have innate secondary upgrades or abilities tied to dashing, which makes dashing or dodging even better for them. However, just focusing on the basic dodge, you should always be dashing or dodging whenever moving. You only sprint when you need to turn corners, since you can't turn or change direction mid-dash. Some maneuvers that you can perform are the elongated dash jump. This is a very simple maneuver that a lot of people will have already figured out themselves. So dashing by itself will only get you so far, jumping forward with momentum will only get you so far. So to extend your range, you jump forward and then dash at the apex of your jump. Now this will allow you to reach furthest places that you wouldn't be able to normally reach otherwise. Like for example, in the footage background, the opposing buildings on Firebase Sandstorm, you wouldn't normally be able to reach with just a dash or just a jump, but with both it is possible. Another example is that you can turn and twist in mid-air. This means you can grab and hop onto ledges that aren't facing towards you or are in an unfavourable direction. In the clip in the background, you can see that while grabbing ammo, instead of running to the edge and reorienting myself, I save time by jumping and reorienting myself in mid-air, allowing myself to grab onto the edge and pull myself up. While this doesn't seem entirely useful, this is a quite handy maneuver to perform when moving to places quicker or trying to escape faster. In the last example of combining movements is incorporating the hover/jetpack. When jumping up with a jetpack, you can hover while using aim down sights or ADS, /scoping in with your weapon. This allows you to target enemies in the air and either fire upon them or use abilities. In this example, you can see that I hover from the highest vantage point while playing sniper to help finish off an enemy, and this would normally make me fall to the lowest point in the map, the ground. Instead, I know there's a bridge behind me, so I dash backwards, which allows me to get to the high ground and set up faster for the next wave. As you play multiplayer mode, you really need to get a good grasp for maps. This allows you to almost never run out of ammo if you know optimal ammo crate routes. Also, this allows you to predict pathing of enemies via map routes and escape heavy fire with shortcuts. Now, I can't really explain maps that well unless you play it, but my really quick tips for all general maps are as follows. Always try to stick to the outer edges of the map. This means that you cannot get flanked from behind. Ammo crates are accessible in what I call the outer ring of the map. Now, only a few maps will have actual ammo crates directly in the middle. One such example is Firebase Icebreaker, but even Firebase Icebreaker has ammo laid out all around the edges of the map. Now, if I see a window, I often break it. This will provide new ways to get out of sticky situations. When you see an isolated group, that is the group I will go for first. If you can eliminate targets efficiently, you can get them out of the fight before a larger group appears or a group of enemies appears, if you know what I mean. Now, this seems a bit of a trivial topic, I guess, but I did receive a message which I think's weren't mentioned here. Even though you have such an array of movement in this game still revolves heavily around moving with cover. It is still a cover-based shooter. There isn't much talk about cover, however there are 3 or 4 things that I would like to talk about. Now, cover is seamless. Now, what this means is that you don't actually have to manually press a button to enter cover or press a button to leave cover. It's all done seamlessly. The only real indication you have entered cover is the shield icon that will appear when you are in cover, or when you leave cover, the shield icon is gone. Now, cover will not block shots at your sides, even if you have cover from the sides. Cover will only block blockable damage in the direction of the cover you are facing. So for example, if you have an environmental cover that is blocking your north, east and west, like so the front and the sides, and if you're using the north cover, the enemies can still shoot you from the side unless you actually face and use the side covers facing towards them. When vaulting out of cover with your designated key on the PC that's control, there are two animations. One is where you slowly climb over the cover, and the other is when you roll to the other side. Now, you obviously want to prefer the rolling one, as it is the most fastest and the most safest, as the climbing one exposes you to danger. Now, I don't know what circumstances dictate you into using which one, so my advice is that when you want to move out of cover, the best method is just jump up and dash and go wherever you want to go instead of using the vault key. I did mention earlier in my series there are differences between bronze, silver and gold. So the main differences are that enemy gets health multiplied based on difficulty, 1 times for bronze, 2 times for silver and 3 times for gold. Enemies start dealing more damage, elites and boss mobs can spawn earlier, and even at wave 1 of the higher difficulties, and enemy boss mobs can be spawned as the assassination target right off the bat for assassination objectives for higher difficulties. So to illustrate the examples of bronze, silver and gold, I'll be playing bronze on a level 1 Vanguard using just Charger and Viper. That's what you start off with as when you first start out. After that, I'll be playing a silver match using my Vanguard from my previous bronze match, along with all my points, however having a max rank with character cards and any levels I gained, still using the Viper, still using the Charger. And for gold, I'll be using my back to basics Vanguard build, so you can see what changes between having a maxed Vanguard and a Vanguard that you just start out. Now, these will all be done with post-commentary analysis to show you my thought process and what I do and why I do what I do. So that's it for this series. Thanks for watching. It's been a long, wild ride. I've had fun making these. I really did it to help anyone that wants to get into Mass Effect Andromeda Multiplayer without having done anything Mass Effect related. If you find this guide helpful, that's all that matters. So I hope you had a great day. I hope to see you next time, and thanks for watching.